Hi everyone, welcome. So this session is serving those who served for us. It's about ending veteran homelessness. We have two presenters, well we actually have four presenters from two different communities, both in Ontario. We'll be hearing from Ottawa and Toronto. And we will hear two presentations and then we'll take 30 minutes for questions at the end. So I would like to begin by acknowledging that the 2025 National Conference on Ending Homelessness is taking place on unceded Indigenous lands. The Ganikaga Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters in which we gather today. Montreal is historically known as the gathering place for many First Nations. Today it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future, and our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples from coast to coast to coast. And so first we'll hear from Aklilu. Aklilu has been the Executive Director of Good Shepherd Ministry since July of 2022. Previously, he worked as Good Shepherd's Assistant Executive Director for 22 years. Aklilu has worked closely with vulnerable populations for more than 30 years. A caring and empathetic social worker, he earned his BSW from the University of Western Ontario, an MSW from the University of Toronto, a postgraduate diploma in Ethnic and Pluralism Studies from the University of Toronto, and a certificate in nonprofit management from the joint program of the Maytree Foundation. Aklilu was recently awarded the King Charles III Coordination Medal for contributions to support disadvantaged and homeless veterans. And we also have Aklilu's colleague here today, Jasmine.
Which one is it? Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Aklilu Rashad. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm so pleased to be here with my colleague.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine.
Okay, that's all right. So I'll be talking about supporting homeless veterans, and I know a number of you are veterans, and I also know a number of you have been working with homeless veterans. So we're not the experts in this field. I know you've got a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise. So, it's a great opportunity for us to share what we have done, what has worked and not worked, and I'm sure you'll take a lesson or two from our experiences. So I will cover, these are the agendas that I will be covering. A little bit of description about who we are, and then about services provided by Good Shepherd, specifically to veterans, what kind of program models are we using, and then the lessons that are learned from our process. So these are the topics I will be covering. Good Shepherd, some of you might be familiar. We have been in business for a long period of time. The brothers have been in Toronto since 1963. Good Shepherd started actually with a small, very small meal program and a homeless shelter. Now it has grown into a complex agency that provides multiple services in one location. Our mission is, again, to be present for the homeless and most neglected members of our community and offer a range of compassionate programs and services to enhance quality of life, inspiring hope, and promoting human dignity. So there's a lot embedded in that. This mission has been our mission since the program started in 1963. We review that from time to time and see if there's any need to modify it. But again, as recently as a couple of years ago, this mission has been reaffirmed, so that's what's leading us. And everything we do has to really revolve around the mission of Good Shepherd Ministries. In terms of our mission, our vision. It's alleviating the effects of poverty while striving to eliminate chronic homelessness within our community. As you can see, there are two components to that. The first part is alleviating the effects of poverty. So we provide programs such as a meal program, a shelter, a homeless shelter, and things like that, clothing. These are really programs that help people to alleviate the effects of homelessness. But at the same time also, we are involved in programs that help eliminate chronic homelessness. So not just only a revolving door, but also a permanent solution to homelessness is what we are focused with. Our Veterans Homeless Program, in our opinion, is part of that vision to eliminate chronic homelessness in our community. So I'll just go a little bit back to just provide you some history as to how did this all begin? How did Good Shepherd got involved in working with homeless veterans? So in 2010, we were approached by the Royal Canadian Legion in Toronto, just asking us whether we know how many veterans are accessing our services. At that point, we knew that there were some veterans accessing our service. We know that, but we had no idea about how many veterans were really being supported by Good Shepherd. So myself and our executive director then, Brother David, discussed about it and said, so what do we do? He said, Aklilu, do you have any idea? I said, no idea. I know there are some veterans, but I don't have any idea what the percentage of people accessing service would be. Then a decision was made. I said, look, brother, here's what I can do. Why don't we devise a strategy? Why don't we develop a survey? Go ahead and do some kind of study. Let's see, it will give us at least, even if it's not a scientific survey, it will give us some hint as to what the prevalence rate is among the population that we're serving. So we went ahead, conducted a survey, and one day there was about 669 clients that came through our door. And out of that, about 65, at least 9.7%, identified themselves as having served in the Canadian Armed Forces. This is a huge number. In fact, what we said was, because the study is not really scientific study, so the margin of error could be quite big. Even if we say 25% margin of error in this case, or even 50% margin of error, we know in the general population, the prevalence of veterans is only about 2% or less. So 4% is quite a huge number, a big representation within the homeless population. So we said this is really very serious, therefore something has to be done. So we started to discuss both internally and then externally with Royal Canadian Legion and Veterans Affairs Canada, and started to develop some programs to specifically tackle the issue of homelessness among veterans. So the first step we took was we housed a couple of employees from Veterans Affairs Canada to work in the Good Shepherd Center. Out of the Good Shepherd Center, they were embedded in our program actually for about a couple of years, and they started learning about how to work with the homeless population and then supporting homeless population. Again, as I said, in 2010, the number of homeless people that we identified was about 9.7%. At that time, the City of Toronto, shortly after that, conducted their own street needs assessment, and they found, I think, about 7% or so of the population they surveyed said that they had also served in the Canadian Armed Forces. So it was not far off from the numbers that we have seen. So huge number of veterans definitely live on the streets and in the shelters of Toronto. That's what we have proved. Currently, there are some studies that have been published recently, and some people say about 5 to 8% of people experiencing homelessness in Ontario are veterans. So that number, if you calculate it, will give you about 700 to 1,300 veterans in Ontario. And in Toronto, the estimate is that there are about 15,000 homeless people in Toronto. So if you take that proportion, then it means it's a very large number of homeless are still on the streets and in the shelter system in Toronto. There's a very recent publication that came out on the street needs assessment in 2024, which shows about 2% of the veterans, the homeless population is veterans. So even if you take that low rate, again, 2% of about 15,000 is 300. So that's a huge number of veterans still on the streets, and we haven't really been able to address those needs. So it just is to show you how big the issue is, how serious the problem is, that a lot of work has to be done if we are to really address the issue of homelessness among veterans in Toronto and area. Since, again, 2010, and since our partnership with Veterans Affairs Canada and Royal Canadian Legion, we've served over 400 veterans. A number of them have been, I think over maybe about 50% of them have been housed, but the rest have been served in one way or another. Partnership again with Royal Canadian Legion and Veterans Affairs Canada has continued, and all of the work that we have done in the past is in collaboration with our partners, both Royal Canadian Legion, Veterans Affairs Canada, and other health and social service providers also. What about the current status? What are we doing at this point? I think that might be of more interest to you. Jasmine, if there's anything you want to add, just feel free to jump in. We have now, since a year ago, we have started a new program for the next 4 years. The program components are finding housing with subsidy. That's very important. We are anticipating to house up to 40 individuals, 40 veterans with subsidy. Follow-up and wraparound service with intensive case management, not only for the veterans that we are housing, but also veterans we have housed in the past will get a wraparound support. We have an outreach component to our program. That's to go out, find veterans, make sure that people understand about our services. And there's a life skill and social skill group, which Jasmine facilitates on a regular basis. And the last one, and most recent undertaking we have started a breakfast club in collaboration with Helen and her program. I'll get into more details next. So who qualifies, you might ask? The people who qualify because of the funding requirements are veterans of Canadian Armed Forces and the RCMP. In our previous work, we used to work with veterans from the Allied Forces, but in this specific case, only veterans of Canadian Armed Forces qualify. So if a client is a member of Allied Forces, we don't provide them specific service through this program. It means they do not qualify for subsidy, but Good Shepherd continues to support them to find other types of housing with case management and those kind of things. And secondly, they have to be honorably discharged. Service has to be verified. That's very important. There's a lot of people who say they are veterans, but before we go ahead and provide any subsidy, there's a lot of money that goes into that. Service has to be verified. Anyways, for any of our veterans program, that's just a requirement. We get it through either Royal Canadian Legion or Veterans Affairs Canada, and without verification of service, we cannot really go forward. Again, even if they don't have that verification and they are homeless and they need support, Good Shepherd will continue to provide them whatever support that is needed and is within our mandate. And for the subsidy to happen, a person must meet a financial test to qualify for that subsidy. I can go into details. So a person has to really qualify that measure has to be the first test in order to take the subsidy forward. Referrals, where do these people go? Where do our veterans come from? They can come from any source, to be honest. They can come from other shelters. They can come from Royal Canadian Legion, drop-in centers, self-referrals, anything, anywhere. They can come from anywhere. It doesn't matter. As long as they are veterans, that should not be a barrier. So what we are trying to do in this case, just to, a lesson for everyone, is to create that low barrier in order to help veterans access services. There's so many different challenges that they are facing, and then if we're creating more barriers, saying you got to go through here, you have to come through A, B, C, and I think the chances of really supporting veterans will be very, very minimal. So just recognizing that, so we say no door is the wrong door in this case. So they can come through any door, and Good Shepherd will be more than happy to see whether they qualify and support them. So who qualifies again? I think we talked about that. So programs, finding housing, what do we do exactly, and some of the success that we have achieved through these things, I will talk about that. The main focus again under the housing program is really finding housing with subsidy. Good Shepherd acts as a lead partner. We've partnered with a couple of programs in Toronto with Good Shepherd Nonprofit Homes and the Neighborhood Community Homes, formerly known as HouseLink Mainstay. So we've partnered with both of them. Both of them are large-scale nonprofit housing providers in Toronto. Helen from Mainstay is here, Good Shepherd Nonprofit Homes. Some of our coworkers from there are also here. Good Shepherd Nonprofit Homes is our sister agency, but completely a separate corporation. They've got their own board of directors, their own management and administrative structure, their own employees. The only relationship we have is that both of us eventually belong to the Brothers of Good Shepherd, so that's where the connection is. But we have partnered with them, so housing stocks are supplied through our partners, and our clients are housed in these two specific programs. They have so many locations in Toronto, whether it's in the East End, Central Toronto, West End. Therefore, choices are not really constrained. They're not limited, and people are not really forced to get into housing that they don't like. There's choice. There's so much availability that can be presented to our veterans. And again, as I said, through this program, eligible veterans will get a subsidy that will last 4 years. So throughout the entire program, veterans will be subsidized with their rent. Total veterans housed in this program so far is about 20, and our target at the end of this year is to reach about 30, 31, and definitely we are hopeful that we will achieve that goal. So far, very interesting thing, I think I want everyone to just keep in mind is of the people that we have housed in the first year, no one has been evicted or lost their housing. So it really clearly shows you if a veteran is housed with subsidy and provided subsequently a wraparound service, then the chances of them keeping their housing, staying away from the street is pretty high. So this is really a lesson for that I think is quite telling.
Can I just add something? So when Akila was saying that none of our veterans have been evicted or lost their housing, the reason why is because Good Shepherd Nonprofit Homes acts as the landlord. So, for example, I, as the worker, I mediate any sort of issues that could arise. For example, when veterans come from shelters, they've been through several years of homelessness. So there's certain challenges that they may face that a superintendent or like a building manager might not be able to understand because they're working with several tenants. At the end of the day, that veteran is just a tenant in that specific building. So if there's any sort of issues that are going to arise, we flag it when it happens, and we try to avoid it from going to a place of getting them into eviction. So follow-up happens once they're housed as well.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. Yeah, I think that's a key. So the next slide, this one here really tells the wraparound service and the intensive case management that's needed. So it's one thing to house a person, but when they have so many challenges, it's very important to have that wraparound service. So that's the key really to helping a person stay housed. There might be so many different needs. You have to identify that. It's all client-centered. It's all client-based. So you got to sit down with a person, with a veteran, and find out what are the issues that they are challenged with, what are the issues that they are interested to work on, and they take the lead. They tell us what exactly they want us to do, and our job is facilitating, supporting, and making sure barriers are eliminated or our clients are supported to reach their goal. So that's the very important thing that we need to really keep in mind. Crisis intervention is part of the intensive case management work. You can house a person, but there's so many things that could unravel when a person is housed. So you need to really be on top of your game to make sure that you address the crisis as it happens. It has got two basic importance in my opinion. Number one, for the veterans, before things escalate, you can de-escalate and start to address issues and then therefore help them to keep their housing. Secondly, it really helps having that crisis intervention. Availability to do crisis intervention helps really build a very strong relationship with our community partners, with housing providers. If you are not a reliable partner, if you cannot be there when they need you, then your relationship can very easily deteriorate, and that will have a very negative impact both on clients and your future functioning. Therefore, that's a very important thing that we need to keep in mind. Since in this process, since 2004 and currently about 60 veterans have been provided with intensive case management, both with Jasmine and other colleagues in our program and other community partners. So that's really what has helped us really to keep veterans housed. The other thing that we have been providing, and we are currently providing also, is the Veterans Living Better Life Skill and Social Skill Group. Our goal is really to provide 3 rounds of 6 weeks program or life skill groups, and that could be that's very interesting approach, to be honest. It has got multiple benefits. Number one, it's an opportunity to help people really acquire new skill, develop their skills, but also an opportunity really to get together with other veterans, develop a community and support network. And the topics are chosen by the veterans themselves. We do not, our facilitators do not impose any specific thing. Of course, we might suggest and say, do you want to consider A, B, C? But eventually it's up to the veterans to decide what exactly is their interest and what they want to work on. So our job, again, in this case also is facilitating and following and just making sure that veterans are reaching their goal in that regard also. On average, the last little while, we have about 12 veterans participating in each of these sessions. Actually, at this point, because Jasmine and her team have introduced a new module, and I think the number of people that are participating has gone up with the technology. We can speak.
The Breakfast Club that we were talking about earlier, so that takes place at this community housing area where it's veteran specific, and they were all provided laptops by the workers there, so we introduced a tech group just to navigate the system, how to send emails, setting up internet. So that group had a pretty good turnout where we get over 20 veterans for every session. So yeah, so our average overall has increased.
Yeah, that's just as a couple of lessons from that is number one, follow what the veterans want. Therefore, you can have higher attendance. And secondly, as Jasmine said, you go and deliver it where they want you to be delivered, not where you want. We could, we have a space at Good Shepherd. We say a program is running from such and such day to such and such day. We'll provide tokens. Please come and participate. It could work. It has worked, but not that effectively. In this case, we went to where veterans are, and we provided it where they live, exactly where they live. Therefore, the uptake has gone up. Again, as she said, the numbers have gone dramatically up to 20 plus individuals every week in a life skill group. I'm sure for anyone who has done that work is very, very good success. So these are some of the lessons to learn. So do you want to talk a little bit about the Breakfast Club itself? That's what we have.
Yeah. So as I sort of touched earlier, the Breakfast Club takes place at this area, Finch and Bathurst. So the veterans there are supported by neighborhood community, previously known as Houseling Mainstay. And there's on-site 3 staff from their end, and from Good Shepherd, myself and the veteran peer support worker, so we alternate, and we go there once a week to set up a breakfast club. And the purpose of this breakfast club is to encourage the veterans there to socialize and connect with each other, but also we're there to support them. But we can't just assume that they'll disclose things to us and they'll get comfortable with us just because we're there to help. So the main key is also to help build trust between the veterans that are living there and us as the staff.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the key is, again, in this one too, there's a veteran-specific breakfast club. This is the first time we introduced it, actually. So veterans feel more comfortable to get together with their own comrades and discuss. These are people that have a lot in common. So just creating an opportunity for people to talk about their past, to connect. There's a lot they can connect about. So that's the important thing to keep in mind. And the whole idea is we're there providing breakfast, but it's not just only to provide breakfast, but to create an opportunity for us to engage them, to know each person in person, and see if there's additional help they need. That's the first thing. Or to be available for veterans to be comfortable and say, once they trust us, to come and say, hey, I've got issue A, B, C, D, can we talk about that? So it really creates a lot of positive dynamics between coworkers and clients and veterans themselves. And this is really, really a wonderful program that I think people need to consider in other places too. Again, as I said, the numbers used to be about 20, but now they have gone up to about 27 per week, which is really, really quite good in our opinion. So if we are doing all of this, what kind of staff complement do we have? Currently, this is the staff complement we have. Veterans transition worker, Jasmine. There's mental health addiction case workers. Specifically, they're doing case management, but specifically focusing on addiction and mental health, because we know that is a big issue. And we've got a peer worker who is fantastic. We've been very, very lucky to have someone who served with the Canadian Armed Forces. It is not an easy thing. Recruiting peer workers is, I think, in my opinion, one of the most difficult things. It is not, you just cannot find easily peers who would be willing to come and support, particularly if you're going for a full-time position, things like that. It's very difficult. But we have been very, very lucky in that regard. So the peer worker's role is not just only to be there and connect with veterans, but also to provide support and guidance to our coworkers. I'm not a veteran. I don't have that experience. Jasmine is not a veteran. She doesn't have that direct experience. So the peer support workers will guide us. They will tell us. They will show us what's positive, what's negative, what are some of the pitfalls, what are things that we need to do and not do. So it's a big help, both for veterans and our team also. And of course, we have a manager who normally supports our staff and also liaison with community partners. This is just a quick pathway of how the referrals and the movement of a homeless veteran from point A to the end happens. Again, on the left-hand side, where the hell is this thing? Anyways, where it says client referral, I can't even move this thing. Oh, anyways, we've got on the left-hand side, you can see client referral, so it can come from anywhere, and then intake and assessment takes place, and then we have to verify service, and then if that's the green line, just follow the green line. If it's service is verified, then case management starts to take place. If service is not verified, it means if a person is not a veteran, just follow the red line, then that client will be referred to other programs within Good Shepherd. So we don't drop them, but refer them to other programs. We've got a housing resettlement program that can provide almost the same kind of support, except a housing subsidy. Therefore, we'll refer them to that program, and support will continue. Again, in case management, once they agree, then we'll see their eligibility, and then housing subsidy, and then process that, support a client to locate and find and choose their housing, and then the process continues. Again, in case management, while they are at the stage of case management, if they decide they don't want to go through the subsidy process for whatever reason, then that's their right. We respect that, but continue to provide them the case management support they choose to be involved in. And I just want to go very quickly about what are the lessons learned from this process. The first thing is that safe and affordable housing with support is the key, really, if we want to eliminate chronic homelessness among veterans. That's very important. Without that, really, not much can be done. Second one is partnership with keys is the key for our success. Again, as I said, from the very beginning, we partnered with Royal Canadian Legion and Veterans Affairs Canada, and currently we have housing partners that we work with. That's very important because we cannot do everything. We don't know everything. Therefore, you have to have really that partnership both with housing providers and other healthcare providers, social service providers, if you are to meet that wraparound service. The third point, in my opinion, is to acknowledge that there is reluctance to ask for help among a lot of veterans that we have served. For whatever reason, yesterday in one of the sessions, there was quite a number of discussion about why is this happening. There's so many different things. But definitely, there's so much literature out there, and we have practically observed that there's a lot of reluctance to come forward and seek help. So that's a natural thing. That's a normal thing. That's something you should expect. Even if you have subsidy, veterans are not just going to rush and start to ask for help. So you need to recognize that, and you need to really understand. You need to work very, very hard, even if you have subsidy, to attract veterans and find out why they're so reluctant to come and seek help from you. Maybe they don't trust us. Maybe they have experience in the past. Maybe because we're not veterans, therefore they might say, I'm not sure whether you'll be able to help me or not. So we have to acknowledge that, but work extra step to make sure that they're comfortable and are involved in the support that we are providing. The last point under this reluctance thing you can have a look at is even after housing, veterans may not really readily accept support, ongoing support. So it's not just only to get into housing, but the aftercare support I was talking about earlier, the wraparound service, although you're willing to provide, veterans may not readily accept it. In other programs also, we have seen the similar kind of situations. So you have to really keep that in mind. Although you have some relationship, it doesn't really immediately translate to ongoing partnership or willingness to to create that therapeutic relationship. So you have to continue to earn it. You have to continue to really find a way to work around it. And then, again, as I said, lack of experience in military service is a big barrier among our coworkers. We couldn't really have a lot of caseworkers who have experience in the Army, or again, even hiring a peer worker is a challenge. Therefore, since more and more caseworkers who will be involved do not have that expertise, I think that's a big barrier. We have to acknowledge that and see what else can be done to help your team develop their capacity. So capacity development is a key. I heard in one of the sessions yesterday, there's a training program that will be starting very shortly to help people really develop capacity in working with veterans and those kind of things. That's really wonderful news. I just registered yesterday online, and I'm sure as soon as I get back to Toronto, we'll share it with our coworkers and involve as many of our coworkers as possible. But that's really a big barrier that we really need to think about. The last point is this subsidy that we are currently getting is a 4 years program, a pilot program. We don't know what's going to happen after 4 years. So lack of long-term operational funding, this is a short-term, 4 years, a very short-term program. Again, as I said, statistics tells us currently, at least there are about 300 veterans in Toronto. Our program is supposed to house only 40 veterans in 4 years' time. We might be able to house 50. But again, if you look at that, there's a huge number of veterans that are left behind. So if we're not certain about what's going to happen after 4 years. So my recommendation is the government has to look for long-term support to programs like ours. So there has to be like long-term strategy to eliminate chronic homelessness. So for that to happen, then you have to commit long-term funding, and you have to have that long-term vision. I'm hoping that we're talking to Veterans Affairs Canada, Infrastructure Canada, and the City of Toronto also to make sure that this program continues to be supported. And I'm hoping that we'll hear some positive news sooner or later. So that's what we have been doing, Jasmine and her team, and of course with a little bit of support from me, have been doing. And if you have any question, we'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you so much to our first presenters. And I'm so sorry I didn't have your bio, Jasmine, but I'm glad we got introduced to the work that you do throughout the presentation. So I'd like to introduce Kristen and Catherine. Kristen has worked at the Ottawa Mission for 16 years, starting in frontline services before moving into housing support, where she assisted individuals to secure stable housing. She is currently the manager of housing services for the Ottawa Mission, leading efforts to address homelessness. Prior to this, she was a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, bringing a strong sense of discipline and commitment to her work. And Catherine has been working for the City of Ottawa for 13 years and has been the Housing and Homelessness Services for 4 years. She coordinates eligibility and prioritization and matching for the city's Housing First program, which includes housing-based case management for non-Indigenous clients in emergency shelters, as well as supportive housing for chronically homeless individuals. Did I get that right? Awesome. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are very happy, albeit nervous, to be presenting to you today. Thank you, Lisa, for doing the Montreal land acknowledgement. We'd also like to take a moment to recognize that Ottawa is built on unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory. The peoples of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The City of Ottawa honors the peoples and lands of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. The City of Ottawa honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. We'd also like to take a moment to thank all members of the Canadian Armed Forces and all veterans, past and present, for their selfless service and enduring dedication to our country. Rushing through this now. We'll skip through the introductions since Lisa already gave a great introduction for us, but I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge some of my team members in the audience here. Our team at the Housing and Homelessness branch or department coordinate programming and funding for different homeless serving agencies in the City of Ottawa. So that's just a bit about what our team does. And here you can meet our lovely team. So our team in Ottawa, we have a Veterans Working Group, which consists of representatives from the Legion, Veterans Affairs, Ottawa Intercity Ministries, Veterans House Canada, Org Code, the Ottawa Mission, and the City of Ottawa. We also have a smaller steering committee, which guides some of the agenda topics and discussion points for the working group agenda. We'd like to recognize the invaluable guidance and expertise provided by two of the representatives, Tracy and Walter. Walter is a retired Lieutenant General and Commander in the Canadian Armed Forces, and Tracy is Vice President of Org Code Consulting. Their ongoing support has been instrumental in shaping Ottawa's veteran homelessness strategy. We deeply appreciate their commitment and their collaborative spirit they bring to end veteran homelessness in our city. Our committee also consists of Kristen, Manager of Housing Services, and Linda, the Veteran Case Manager from the Ottawa Mission, which you'll be hearing more about today. Our learning outcomes for the session include to share with you how Ottawa uses data to guide veteran homelessness strategies, explain the role and impact of a dedicated veteran case manager, highlight collaboration between veteran services and homelessness programs, outline key challenges and practical solutions in case management, share real examples of successful veteran housing outcomes. In Ottawa, we've aligned our veteran definition with Veterans Affairs Canada. So a veteran experiencing homelessness is defined as someone without stable, permanent, or appropriate housing, or without the immediate prospect, means, or ability to acquire it. Sorry, so I'm rushing through this, so apologies. Some key milestones, the Built for Zero Ottawa Veterans Working Group was convened out of a direction by the Veterans Task Force in the City of Ottawa and is an initiative of the City of Ottawa's strategy to reduce veteran homelessness. Early on in our journey, the working group identified a gap of service regarding homeless veterans and saw the benefits of having a dedicated position to veterans experiencing homelessness, and were consulted when developing through the veteran case manager position. The working group members promote collaboration between veteran services and the homelessness sector, and they continue to share commitment and dedication to the working group and to supporting homeless or at-risk veterans with housing. Some key milestones in Ottawa on our journey to end veteran homelessness. So in 2017, the City of Ottawa joined Built for Zero Canada. In 2019, the City of Ottawa Veterans Task Force requested a community working group led by Housing and Homelessness Services. Then in 2021, the City of Ottawa partnered with the Ottawa Mission to implement the Veteran Case Manager position. In 2023, permanent funding for the Veteran Case Manager position was secured. And then present day, we have an active working group supported by a Veteran Case Manager who is housing and supporting veterans using Housing First principles. our approach to reducing the number of veterans experiencing homelessness. So our strategy includes using data-driven strategies and an action-oriented case conferencing approach rooted in housing first principles. We've learned collaboration is key, partnering with veteran services, outreach teams, shelters, and housing providers to create a coordinated system of response. Our key actions include introducing the veteran case manager role, identifying access points, tackling system-level barriers, and developing tools like the Veteran Process Manual to help veterans navigate services. The City of Ottawa has implemented various enhanced supports to help house homeless veterans. This includes supports that are outside of typical social services. So we provide first and last month's rent when the landlord cannot wait for other financial resources. We cover rental arrears in urgent cases where other resources are not immediately available. So for example, a veteran facing eviction due to unpaid rent receives emergency support to cover arrears while long-term financial assistance is being processed. Veterans also get prioritized assignment to housing-based case managers for homeless veterans needing longer-term stabilization and support. So if a veteran is confirmed, has their service confirmed, and is identified by the veteran case manager as needing more intensive supports, we would prioritize them for the next available caseload space. Now I'd like to take a moment to talk about our community capacity building training program, which is a key program dedicated to helping frontline staff in the homelessness sector. So this is a federally free-funded program for frontline workers in Ottawa's homelessness sector. They provide free, relevant, and quality training opportunities to agencies who work with homeless clients. The website has resources, recordings of trainings, videos, a bulletin board, and presentation handouts specifically tailored to those working with veterans. It's a globally recognized program helping other cities launch their own training initiatives. Tracy from Morcode and Housing and Homelessness staff developed a veteran-specific training module to address the unique needs of frontline workers supporting homeless veterans. Some examples of the veteran-specific training workshops and training created are incorporating trauma-informed care into the housing and homelessness services for veterans and their families, an overview on trauma, PTSD, and stress in veterans, mental health first aid for the veteran community, and introduction to trauma exposed for professionals. Using a data-driven approach, so homelessness serving agencies report into HIFIS and confirm client demographic information such as veteran status. These include emergency shelters, outreach services, day programs, and Indigenous providers. Our next step in the expansion is to identify veteran serving partners and get them on board as well. The City of Ottawa collects this data and consenting veterans are notified to the veteran case manager. The veteran case manager then connects with the veteran to verify service and update HIFIS accordingly. Data reporting to Build for Zero. Some of you may be familiar with this. So our definition of actively homeless is one homeless stay in the last 90 days. Our definition of chronic homelessness is 6 months of homelessness over the past year or recurrent episodes of homelessness over the past 3 years totaling 18 months or more. Some of the types of homelessness that we report to Build for Zero include unsheltered, sheltered, and hidden homelessness. And we report on various data points, so I just wanted to explain some of those inflow points. So newly identified are clients that are new to the homelessness system. So for example, if a client has been changed from not a veteran to a veteran, that would be a newly identified veteran to our system. And aged in is a chronic measure only for clients that have accumulated enough stays to go from homelessness to chronic homelessness. So we pull our data from HIFIS and clients' housing history records, and we report this data to Build for Zero as inflow, outflow numbers, and actively homeless. Our veteran service verification. Through the hard work of the veteran case manager, nearly half of all actively homeless veteran clients have had their service confirmed, with 20% of all homeless veterans being reported as having no service. This is a huge feat in Ottawa. We have a large homeless population with a lot of transients, so finding the clients is a challenge in itself half the time. So really great that we have a lot, like all of our chronic veterans are verified, so that's great. This is a really important in maintaining data accuracy and determining eligibility for services, and it's led to an increase in clients moving to inactive, as shown in the following slide. You can see the spike at the end there with move to inactive clients. And then I just wanted to lastly highlight our custom dashboard. Our custom Powered BI dashboard is used for data reporting to Build for Zero, as well as City Council and federal provincial funders. We also use it to facilitate discussions between members of the working group, and we share it as a PDF along with the agenda and minutes. So we've found a lot of positive feedback with the custom dashboards as well. And now I will hand it over to Kristen for the mission.
All right. So we really wanted to highlight some of the team behind the Veterans Case Manager position at the mission. So Linda in the middle, who I will be referencing a lot throughout this speech, is she's our Veterans Case Manager. So she is the one that's on the ground. She's doing the work with all the veterans, so she's kind of the star. And then we have Peter Tilley, who is our CEO of the mission, and Joe McLean, who is the Director of Programs, who, when the city came to the mission asking us if we wanted to first pilot this position, they greenlighted this program. So without them, we wouldn't have this program. And then Rashawn Delmanova, she is our controller. So she's making sure financially we are doing well and we're staying within budget. Okay, so we wanted to go over some strategies for success. And really, this program has been successful because of the multi-agency collaborations that we've made throughout this program and throughout its time running. So we have our bi-weekly case consults with the City of Ottawa. So that's myself, Katie, Aisha, and Linda, of course, where we meet every other Friday. And this is where Linda will go over some of those client trends that she's seeing, any barriers that she's facing. And really, this is us coming to the table and discussing how we can best support Linda with moving forward with some of those challenges or barriers. Then we have our BFC Veteran Working Group, and this is also where Linda will discuss any client trends and barriers as well. It's on a larger scale, as Katie mentioned, some of the different veteran working agencies that would meet often every 3 or so months. We'll meet, and this is really important for Linda, because it really gets the expertise of all these veteran agencies and some of the client trends that they are seeing at their agencies and how they are navigating those challenges or barriers. So that's really helpful. And then participates in veteran-specific meetings to enhance service coordination. So this is Linda going to, Respect Forum, where there's a bunch of different veteran serving agencies, meeting with Veterans Affairs Canada or Ottawa Inner City Ministries. And these meetings are really important because a lot of the work that we do are very similar. So we really want to make sure that we're aligned and that we're not duplicating any services. Then we have works collaboratively with other homeless sectors. So this is where Linda will go to the Salvation Army every Friday afternoon. That's where veterans who are currently residing there, they know that she'll be there Friday afternoon, and that's where she'll sit down with them. She'll go over any goals that they might have and meet with them. And that's where we also want to make sure that, you know, no client is falling through the cracks. So, I think that's it. Okay, so some of the benefits of a veteran case manager. So personalized support and advocacy. So this is where Linda will do like a very individualized care plans. It's coming from a very client-centered approach when she's supporting each veteran and their specific needs. You know, not everyone is on the same journey or the same path, so meeting them where they're at, right? This is where she'll advocate for any veteran-specific needs. So, and help navigate those complex federal, provincial, municipal systems and ensure that they are connected to the services that they are entitled to. So assertive engagement. So understanding that veterans are less likely to reach out for direct support and that we understand that these clients require direct engagement from staff to ensure that they don't fall between those cracks. Building that trust over time. So sometimes it takes months to build that rapport with a client, right? And making sure that we are meeting them where they're at, whether that's meeting them out in a makeshift shelter out on the street in a park or, you know, whatever stage of readiness that they are currently at. When we first meet with them, they might not be ready to talk about housing right away. So we're building that rapport over time and so meeting them where they're at. Housing assistance and stability. So this is where, you know, we're making sure they're document ready. So making sure that they have their identifications all done, their taxes are all up to date, and getting them on the registry. So supporting them with obtaining permanent, safe, affordable housing, which is tailored to the client's needs and wants. Housing retention, ensuring that they're connected with the community, so making sure that community mapping piece, right? So where are the local food banks around their units? Where is the Legion around their units? Following clients into their housing and being able to offer referrals should they present after their move-in. And those skill buildings and encouragement once they move into their place, right? This is working with them to adjust to that possible lifestyle changes, right? If they've been in the shelter for a long period of time or institutionalized, right? It's an adjustment for them. Navigation of veteran and community resources. So once again, community mapping, making sure they know where the drop-in centers are, making sure they know if there's any veteran services, drop-in centers. OIM has a great program where they do veteran movie nights, so connecting them within their community and making sure that they're, you know, building that social net in and around their units. Okay. Oh, is it not up that whole time? Okay. Sorry. Okay, so case management overview. So initial contact. So this is where Linda will go meet with them and verify service as soon as possible, right? We understand also that rapport building needs to be there, which could take months. They might not be ready to go and sign a bunch of documents first time that you meet with them, and that's okay. And then also ensuring that they're aware that it is a consent-based program. Case management expectations. So this is, you know, making sure they are aware of the expectations of this program. So that is a Housing First program, and that they're engaged in the process throughout. Like I said, it's a consent-based, so they can also revoke that consent at any point in time should they wish to. And Linda does a great job with making a harm reduction approach in all of her meetings, and that abstinence does not need to happen, like required for this caseload. And average length of stay. So on average, we are seeing about a little over 6 months in the past year who have been on this caseload. However, that's also case by case. We do have some that have been in the program for a lot longer, but that's the average amount that we are seeing. After clients find housing, meetings will start week by week. So they're starting off quite regularly, and then as time happens, we'll go to like bi-weekly meetings and stuff. However, also that's very case by case. And oftentimes after they get into their housing, it can be anywhere from 3 to 6 months that they will be on the caseload. And so referrals. So throughout the time that they're in the program, at any point in time, Linda can refer them should they need any referrals to like mental health, substance, like treatment programs or whatnot. She'll make those referrals throughout their time on the caseload. And then even post, once they find the housing, she'll be making those referrals. And the door is never closed. If they find housing, they've been on the caseload, they're doing really, really well independently, and they're well connected into the community. However, a few months later, there's a bit of a decline. They can come back onto our program. Okay. Some of the common barriers that we have seen that homeless veterans face, and really a lot of these can be kind of across the board in any demographic, but these are just some of the ones that we are seeing. So health concerns, so mental health, physical, substance, in terms of physical health, maybe they might not be compatible for the units that are available. So is that unit accessible? Feelings of unworthiness. So feelings of guilt, like they do not deserve to have this kind of support or that they shouldn't need it. Someone else had it way worse than they did. Distrust of government services and institutions. So, expressing that feeling of being let down and the thought of why should I even bother? Technology, as we all know, technology is really important in today's world and society. So, some of those tasks you do need to have technology, an iPad, a computer, a phone to do certain applications or over the phone appointments with Veterans Affairs Canada and whatnot. So it's really important. However, keeping a phone in good condition or keeping it in general when you're unhoused is really difficult. Heightened outdoor skills. So some folks prefer to sleep outside rather than being in the shelter. And when they do sleep outside, it does make it more difficult for Linda to connect with them when they are sleeping outside. Sorry. And longer times go in between those meetings as well. So in between, like if they're sleeping outside, they're transient, a lot longer times are going in between each appointment. Self-identity as a veteran. Many folks believe that they do not deserve the label of a veteran because they were not deployed or that they only worked as a reservist for a short amount of period of time. And then the lack of knowledge of community resources. So they may not know where to go to get those veteran supports, how to connect with Veterans Affairs Canada, the Legion, where they would go to connect with Linda, our veterans case manager. And then some of the other ones would be like unaffordable housing market, emergency shelter barriers, right? So, shelters are over capacity. There's also those rigid rules to keep the same bed each night. So now we really wanted to highlight some of the success throughout this program. So that was actually cut out of a card that one of the clients of this program gave to Linda. So just a couple little stories that we really wanted to share with you. So our veterans case manager was working with a transient client who was reluctant to engage with services as he had a lot of negative experiences prior with social services. After a few meetings, the client agreed to meet with the veterans case manager at the local mall to pick out a pair of shoes. Client was able to try on shoes, make his choice, which staff were able to purchase. This was a huge turning point in the case management relationship and that trust building. And just those little successes, right? Just as simple as going to buy a pair of shoes is huge. And we celebrate those little successes. A client was moved into a senior housing unit through a municipal community housing provider. The client appeared to be nesting well 4 to 8 weeks past his move-in and was even moved to bi-weekly meetings with a plan of transitioning to a monthly in-person housing check-in. His unit had furniture, was always clean, and had food in the fridge. At the 3-month mark, his mental health started to decline, which led to an increased hospital visits related to his mental health substance use. The veterans case manager was able to address this with the client and refer to a community mental health outreach program that the Ottawa Mission partners with at the Royal Ottawa, and eventually facilitated the contact to a CMHA Housing First community caseworker. This intervention was provided prior to the tenancy becoming at risk from the housing provider. And the last little success story that we wanted to highlight is the veterans case manager met a client who was in the shelter for over 3 months before they decided to self-identify as a veteran. He had felt that he did not deserve to access resources as he felt his services were limited, and only disclosed his service after a friend had encouraged him to. Within 3 months of working with the veterans case manager, he identified mental health substance use as a goal, which he was referred to a CMHA Housing First community case manager and located housing in the private market soon after. He is still housed with these community supports. Thank you.
Okay, oh, it's on, great. We're going to take questions now. We have about 20 minutes for questions, so raise your hand if you'd like to ask something of any of our presenters.
Just a question on who decides on the definition of who a veteran is? And I guess the other question is, why would the program not serve people who are dishonorably discharged?
So for us at the city, we've aligned our definition with the definition from the Canadian Legion for what they consider a veteran. And then for the verification, if the Legion is able to verify service, then we consider them eligible for our programming. So we actually have supported verified allied veterans through our program as well, for example.
So for our program, as I said, there are 2 streams of service we're providing. The honorably discharged criteria is part of the requirement of the funding from the federal government. So they decide. So we follow through with that. So what we normally do is we send the application of a veteran, and they have to approve to say that they qualify, they are veterans, then we follow through that. But regardless whether they're honorably discharged or not, we have another stream that will continue to support the veterans. It doesn't matter, as long as a person is veteran, then we continue to support them through other claim that they are served, then we'll continue to support them. If they, if there was an error in identifying themselves as such, that's okay too. We've got another program that supports people to find housing and continue to provide them the case management they need. So we've got a number of options for anyone, any homeless person who really wants to be supported. There are specific criteria about subsidy And that is really tied up with the federal government's definition, and we can't really do anything about that. But otherwise, in terms of service, our service is available to anyone who needs it, anyone who is either a veteran or even non-veteran who is a homeless person. So.
Did you have a question? Oh, okay. Anybody have any other questions? Yep. Sorry, I've got short little legs, but I'm coming.
I was just wondering, what's the average age? And are you foreseeing an issue of working with people who are aging, veterans who are aging, and their specific needs?
So in our program, I would say the average age is about 50, 55. Recently, a lot of our veterans have been 65 plus, but we have had, veterans as young as 30.
Yeah. So I guess there's a number of studies that show, once a person is discharged from from service, it takes a period of time, and I think we're now beginning to see more and more younger veterans among the homeless population, and I suspect that number will start to rise because, again, as I said, there are studies that show about 10 years after being discharged, people will start to be homeless. That's when really the issue starts to kick in, and we know how many veterans, how many people leave the service every year, and you can start to trace that and anticipate how many veterans we can see. That's why I was talking about earlier, we need a long-term strategy really to deal with veterans' homelessness, because these are real realities that would kick in, that will continue to be there. So we have to prepare as a society. We have to have that strategic plan, understanding that there will be more and more people who will be on the streets. Therefore, we have to have a proactive approach to dealing with that. So.
In Ottawa, our last month count was about 37 homeless veterans, I believe, and a little more than 50% of those were adults, so between the ages of 25 and 64, and then a little less than 50% were seniors, so that's definitely the two main demographic age groups that we're seeing for sure. A lot of we're seeing in general an aging homeless population, so not just with veterans, but yeah.
You said that almost all your veterans are housed at this point. And obviously you just gave your situation. Do you have any tips on how to move a veteran who has very complex needs, would be considered high acuity, plus, is just unable to function? Like, do you have any suggestions on how to move that forward for them?
I can see the challenge for us with our subsidy program. We only house the veterans that are interested in living independently. However, we do also have veterans that face a lot of challenges. When Aklilu was saying how many veterans we've housed, he was mentioned there's 13 and one without. So usually the without is veterans that have been supported with getting into transitional housing. We also have a relationship with Sunnybrook Hospital in Ontario. So we also get them into long-term care program, and we also work to expedite the wait times to get them into facilities that best suits their needs. So usually that's how we go about it.
So the 13 is plus 7 or 8, so over 20, I said 20. And our goal is to house about 40, I think 40 in a couple of, in the 4 years period, and we are definitely sure we will achieve that. Again, as I said, I think the key, in my opinion, is partnership in every aspect of it. We're case managers, we've got a certain capacity, a certain set of knowledge and skills, but he can't do everything. You have to have a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and housing providers. Within the housing portfolio itself, you need to have a variety of housing. I'll give you an example of a gentleman we housed recently, an elderly guy, maybe about 78, 75 or so. We thought he was functional enough while he was in the shelter because he goes to his room, he comes for a meal, he goes around, everything we thought was safe. But once we housed him, we found that there was a serious problem with his cognition. He was completely disoriented after we housed him, an elderly guy. So he got lost. He couldn't really survive independently. Then we had really to go out, find him, bring him back, and again, he was unable to stay safely in an independent living. Therefore, what we did, we brought him back to the shelter. We have got a shelter. We brought him back to our shelter and then started to work on supportive housing. So 24, where he can get 24 hours support, where his meal can be prepared, where he would be monitored in terms of his safety and security also. We were very lucky, very lucky. We have our own supportive housing, and we had an opening. Therefore, we put him at the top of the queue, and we're able to house him. So, so you have to have that kind of partnership. Partnership with health providers, partnership with social service providers, partnership a range of housing providers also. So those are kind of things that we try to work on. But I know in practice, it is a very tough situation, very tough situation.
And I could also just kind of echo a lot of what Jasmine said as what we do with some of the folks that we're seeing that are really high needs. And really, we would look at some of those supportive housing units that have like those 24-hour on-site staff supports for them.
Okay, question?
Thank you. I just had a question about the data that you said you were using. So you had a beautiful graph of all this HIFIS stuff, and everybody's feeding into HIFIS, but the arrows were very much one way, and then you had all of your own information beside that. And I'm just wondering, what are you using to track everything, and what sort of software are you running to do all your modeling and things like that?
So as I mentioned, we are pulling the data from HIFIS in the back end from their housing histories, which includes their admission stays at all of our emergency shelters. And to do that, we use SQL. So then that data gets pulled and gets put into a Power BI dashboard for the working group and for analysis. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm coming.
Hi, my name is Joanne Bilodeau. I work at a women's veteran retreat center in Ottawa, Chelsea, but serve the Ottawa-Gatineau area. Thank you both for your presentations and for serving the homeless and veteran community specifically. I'm just wondering if you serve and have actually identified women veterans in your community. I know what Ottawa does, but for the benefit of the group, I'd appreciate knowing what you both do.
So our services are not gender specific. We work with both male and female veterans. However, in terms of ratio, female veterans are much less. In my experience, I've probably only worked with three female veterans. But I think it's also because when it comes to the veteran homeless population, female veterans are lower. So I feel like that's the reason why the ones that seek support are significantly lower as well. But that's the whole point of outreach. We tried to connect with agencies that work with female veterans so they know that we have this service. And through that, we did get one referral. So the outreach works.
I'm not sure if you asked if we served. I personally haven't. I believe Linda has had family members who have served, our veteran case manager. And then for the landscape in Ottawa, we are very similar. Definitely the majority of our veterans that we see are male. We have some female veterans, not currently active, I don't believe, but we do, like we've housed a female veteran from shelter to Veterans House, for example. So. Yeah.
Any more questions from folks?
Not a question. Hi, my name is Maria, and I'm from the Legion Foundation in BC and Yukon. I just wanted to let whoever asked that previous question know that Cheryl Forchuk is somewhere in the conference here, and she is studying female vets. So you definitely should connect with her. Yeah.
Yes, I believe I've referred a couple contacts to them for the survey.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm from Ottawa too, and Cheryl has been at her working group. It's been a great experience with her and her team, and we do work very closely with her. So thanks for bringing that up. That's great. And I just want to say a shout out to Pepper Pod, because they are great, and Linda, our caseworker, has been working with them, and they are joining our veterans working group. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, folks. Well, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoy our next keynote speaker, Jessie Thistle, that you'll hear shortly. Thank you so much.